Hey guys, welcome to the Revive Stronger podcast. I'm your host, as always, Steve Hall, and today I have Charly Joung and Mike Israetel on the show, and I'm very excited to talk to these guys. This is a promotional episode for the London and RP seminar that's happening on the 4th of June and 5th. But you can only get tickets for the 4th right now for the single seminar day, which is going to be a ton of fun. You're going to get a ton of insights into how fun that's going to be and the sort of level of education you're going to receive. We talk about what's going to be covered and much, much more in this episode. And as always, guys, if you do want to pick up a ticket, you can pick those up with the link in the bio. Don't miss out. Get your ticket today. And yeah, don't worry, it's not going to be an entire sales pitch the whole episode, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's dig into the show. Hi guys, welcome to the Revive Stronger podcast. I'm your host, as always, Steve Hall, and today I have two of the Team Full ROM members here. Jared just couldn't be bothered to come, I think. He's not feeling too well, to be fair. And hopefully, I have no doubt he'll be fully recovered. As the guys were just saying, he is almost like Superman. He will be using his healing powers to be ready and raring to go for the London seminar, which is all the way in June, so there's plenty of time between then. But this was a promotional podcast to essentially promote the seminar. And we have some questions from the audience to give you a bit of a taster into kind of what the guys will be covering in terms of the day and also just the guys in general. And I know you guys love hearing from Charly Joung, who is on the podcast with Mike Israetel. And obviously, like I said, Jared Feather unfortunately couldn't be here with us. And I just want to let people know from the offset that there are still tickets available for the 4th of June. So that is the seminar day, and that is going to be central London. So the venues we're looking at, not quite confirmed, but it's going to be really near Oxford Circus. So if you're wondering where to stay or what have you, you're a bit concerned. It's literally going to be like a 10-minute walk from Oxford Circus, which is about as central of London as you can get. So if you're anywhere within there, you're going to be absolutely great. You can get everywhere on the tubes, on the underground, and yeah, it's going to be a fantastic day. I'm super hyped for it. So guys, how you both doing? Charly, how's the mass going? Are you going to still be massing by then? How big are you going to be by then?
So right now I'm deloading and then right into a mini cut, a 5-week long one. I'll probably get down to like 255 or lower, I assume. I'm already 267. I lost like 5 to 7 pounds already, but I'll be messing back up for the London seminar because I have to bring the size right for y'all folk. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm, over 270 again by that time. So we'll see.
First time in London?
First time in Europe in general.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice. So we better, we've got to treat Charly well.
Charly, let me tell you about exactly what London is like. You ever seen one of them movies like Fantastic Beasts or some shit like that, or like
Harry Potter,
Narnia, or like Harry Potter? Yeah. It's like to me, London is always frozen in like 1942, like the Great War, and everyone's wearing very fancy everything, and they're like meh, and howdy ho, and everyone's super polite, and there's like all this magical stuff everywhere, and everything's called like Piccadilly Circus. Like that's a real place that actually has a name.
I can't wait.
It's great. Yeah.
So I believe all this stuff, but also my wife Britt is telling me that there's this thing about London. I don't know, like it's kind of like I guess our equivalent to Jersey Shore. The whole posh look, I don't know, like
yes.
Very heavily done makeup and like just tacky everything. I just found out about this.
What are they called? Chavs or something? Chavs?
Chavs are, they're a real thing.
Only Way is Essex, Towie? Is that a thing? Like,
yeah, that's a show.
Okay.
There's also Made in Chelsea, which is a little bit upper class. These are the posh folks in Made in Chelsea. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think you'll get a good experience with London. It's a good old mix of things going on and good food.
Nice.
I know
I heard
Mike always
London. Oh yeah. London is my favorite place on this earth. London is my favorite city. Yeah, it just is. It used to be New York, but I went to London a few more times and I was just like, this is amazing. And the reason it's my favorite is because, first of all, it's really stupid reasons. One, it's like the seat of Western civilization. Is like there's streets in London that are literally 1,000 years old. Like, that makes no sense. America's like a third that age. Secondly, everyone talks like they're from Harry Potter, which is fucking incredible. Everybody is like, oh, in it, fuck off, governor. And I'm like, whoa, unbelievable. And I don't care what they're saying. I just want them to keep talking. And then the cabs look like they're from 1952, which is also amazing. And they're like reverse seating. It's super weird, but awesome. And then the snack food scene is off the fucking chain. What baffles me is when people from England come to the States and they're like, oh, I can't wait to go shopping in Walmart. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? Why? I'll spare you the expense. Don't go. But they've got all these little convenience stores and all these weird potato chips, which I think you guys call crisps. And it's so amazing. All Crystal and I do, my wife, is we go and like whatever we're doing, we do that. But like we spend like an inordinate amount of time and basically, Charlie, they're equivalent of a 7-Eleven, which people probably think we're fucking insane. And we just like shop for these little tasty foods. It's Charlie, they have shrimp sandwiches at a fucking 7-Eleven, bro. And they're good. And like chicken and corn sandwiches, unbelievable. Like never ending weird junk food.
I love it.
I'm quite upset I haven't had a chicken and sweet corn sandwich for way too long, like a year or something.
They're so good.
They're really
macros.
good.
The macros are fucking great, Charlie. The macros are like 20 protein, like 35 carbs, and like 9 fats.
Wow.
For like a fucking
that's perfect.
Sandwich at a 7-Eleven. What?
That's your photographic memory. Like the 9 is so specific. I love that. It's probably completely right.
I'm so used to counting them.
Actually, that brings me to someone did ask the first day, is it 9 to 5? Is there a break for food? Like they were kind of like, should I bring my own food? And with Central London, there's going to be probably an hour-long lunch break for you to go and venture. And we're right by Oxford Circus, so there's everything in like you could probably want. Like Mike said, all the little sandwiches you're going to be able to find Tesco Express, they're all over the shop. Subways, like, you know, Chipotle, you can even get that over here now. So we have everything in central London. They also asked, what's the training day going to be like? So I don't know if Mike, you want to touch a little bit on that. We're talking about it off air, and yeah, I think people are going to be excited. It's sold out, unfortunately, but we're just going to kind of hype up those who are coming or scare them.
Scare them. So the training day is going to be probably similar to what we've done in the past, which is we take some folks and split them into groups of 3 or 4. And you don't necessarily get assigned to groups. You can be in groups with your friends, or if you don't have any friends, you can be in a group with me because I don't have any friends either. But we split people up into groups and we throw up some sample workouts on like the chalkboard, and they're usually going to be like 1 or 2 muscle group workouts. And we sort of go through them and illustrate the technique and chat about what you have to look out for. And then you have the workout, you're in your groups, you begin to warm up, you're in your little area. And myself, Charlie, Jared, Steve, Pascal.
Harry will be there.
We're going to be walking around. Oh, Harry will be there. Excellent.
Not Potter, but
Harry Potter.
Close enough.
So the number of Harry Potter jokes that will be occurring from my mouth to Harry at his expense is just going to be inordinate. It's going to be past the point where they're funny. He's just going to punch me in the mouth, or cast a spell. What you going to do, Harry? Cast a spell on me? Like that. That literal joke will be made hundreds of times. So we're going to break up into groups, and then people will be training. And we will walk around and give you technique pointers, answer any and all questions you have about anything, including the training, including other stuff. And we are going to get under your skin, and we're going to yell at you, and we're going to push you. You're going to have probably one of the best workouts of your life. But not only is it going to be a great workout, you're going to take both theoretical and actionable tips away from that. So you could be like, wow, I trained not just hard, but smart. And then you're going to be able to apply those ideas into your own training. So it's going to be a blast. And I guess this is something I'll say because I have no idea how it's going to come off, but I'll say it anyway. And this applies to both the training and the seminar day. Like, if you've never met us, myself, Charlie, and Jared, like, we're just regular ass people. We will talk to you about anything. You can ask us anything. You can tell us to go fuck ourselves. We don't have a fucking hoity-toity idea about like we're like some kind of authority, some shit. Like, it doesn't matter. So we'll like come chat with us. Like, we just want to hang out with you guys. We're literally just going to hang out with you guys. And we have presentations, and we have lectures, but like, it's such a chill environment. It's not like, oh, Dr. Mike gives a talk and then he's whisked away to his hotel in a fucking hover car. Now that I'm saying that, it sounds kind of cool. Like, no more autographs, folks. But like, it's just us coming to come chill with you guys. So, and whenever there's a lot of like young men around, I always get very curious. So I'm always in the mix, Yeah, must have sounded better in my head.
I can also speak to that because I still remember the first time when we brought you over, Mike, and I was meeting you in the restaurant, and I was just like, I'm not the most confident person for like first time meetups anyway, but I was like, well, I'm kind of nervous. And then I kind of saw you guys all just sitting there and, like you said, just super chill, super relaxed. And I felt very much like comfortable quickly. So if anyone's like, I don't know, a little bit socially awkward and like unsure, you're going to fit right in because there's probably other people there too. And these guys, like I said, like they make you feel like you're at home very quickly. And I will do that too.
For sure. Also, like, it's just jokes, all jokes. It's all jokes. And we will joke to you and at you and with you, and it's always together. Like, we're never going to make fun of you or something like that. We will. Sorry, I take that back. We're going to make fun of you, but it's all a togetherness, happiness, laughing together. That, because like a lot of people, I think, get taken aback at the jokes, and they're like, "Oh, is Dr. Mike like razzing me?" Like, yes, but it's a togetherness thing. It's we're never gonna in a million years like embarrass you or intimidate you or anything crazy like that. So just the jokes are pretty fast paced. I was raised by our friend Marcos Rodriguez in New York to joke very rapidly. So it's Charlie, you know what I'm saying? We gotta keep that shit up.
Man. Yeah, I mean, like, feel free to say whatever, whenever to any of us. Nothing you can say, like Mike said, you won't embarrass yourself. You won't offend us. You can damn well try.
It's impossible.
Here's the thing. Actually, no.
I'm
going to put this out there. If someone can offend me at the seminar, you get a special prize. Try.
Is it a punch in the face?
I was going to say, Mike, are you prepared for a slap? People are going to be inspired after recent events. I'm assuming everyone's seen this by now.
Oh, my God.
I can't wait because I have this whole sequence set up. If some motherfucker try to slap me, arm drag, single. I mean, there's a sequence here, folks. Please come up and slap me.
I don't get slapped by someone in London.
The system works in the UK.
Yeah, I assume they put on a fresh white glove before doing so. Like, it's coming. There's a whole process.
Charlie, hold up. Is it that how does the slapping work? Do they put on the white glove or do they take it off and then slap?
Oh, you're right. Because they're already decked out with the white glove, all fancy. And we're top hats, right? Everywhere. In Cambridge? No? Right?
Yes, everywhere. Every single person wears a top hat in London.
Actually, that brings me to another question that came up, was the main topics for the day. So I don't know if you guys have changed the topics of what do you know? Do you remember? Because yes, go for it. Mike, what's the main topic for you for the day?
So for me, I don't know Jared's topic. Fuck if I ever do that shit.
I do know.
But
unless he's changed
perfect, thank God. Yeah, no, I'm sure it's fine. So my topic is when technique focus can go too far. Because we're all nerds and we're all super concerned, as well as we should be, about really having super good technique. But there's the situation you can get into where you care about your technique so much, your intensity can drop off, your reps in reserve can drop off, and you're so worried about perfect technique, what you end up doing is maybe incrementally increasing the load and freaking out and thinking your technique is breaking down and recycling down way too soon to renorm your technique, which is a good thing that should happen every now and again anyway. But some people get so in their heads about good technique that they end up way overvaluing it at the expense of how hard they're trying. There's a balance there, like technique is important, but trying hard is also very important. So I'm going to talk super deep dive, basically an hour-long lecture into what are the specific problems with over-focusing on technique, how they present themselves, and how you can make sure that you don't fall into that trap. And it's a trap I've been in before. It's a trap many people have been in before. It's not a trap that affects like bros much, but it affects nerds like us a ton. And I assume almost everyone going to this thing is a fucking literally Harry Potter. I'm assuming everyone that's coming to the seminar is a clone of Harry Potter or Harry Potter's weird redheaded friend. What's his name?
Ron Weasley. I tried to do some sort of accent. I don't know if that worked. I'm British anyway. I don't need to. Just sounded like I'll say
I didn't know
normally.
you were doing an accent. I was like, oh, you're saying it fine, except very like intently.
And then Charly, what you?
Oh yeah. So my topic's pretty much going to touch on the psychology mindset going into training, dieting, specifically for like bodybuilding prep. Like Mike said, everyone attending is very, very smart and probably well versed in a lot of nutrition and sports science already. But sometimes that's kind of like best practices during dieting and training, but maybe not too much about the mindset and how you can apply yourself to kind of have a high success rate for yourself and probably the best outcomes towards the end. So, yeah.
That's super practical stuff that you kind of only get when you go through it. And then maybe it's too late. But if you've got Charly's presentation in your head, been probably a lot easier. I don't know if that's the right word. You're not going to crash and burn as likely. Probably easier. Let's say that.
Definitely less needlessly difficult.
There you go.
That's a big thing. And it's a lot of tips that you're like, exactly like you said, Steve. If you knew Charly's shit before you started a prep, it's a lot of stuff that you really are going to thank yourself for knowing when you're doing your prep or when you're doing even just a hard diet. Training and diet wise, I've had a peek at Charly's presentation, and it's like, I wish I knew this shit when I did my first 5 preps. So it's really good to know because it's all good to know all the science and stuff, but when you get in and you're starving to death and you're supposed to try to train hard, but what's too hard? Am I underthinking things? Am I overthinking things? I have to stick to the plan, but when I stick rigidly to the plan, I start to burn out. Charly's walked that line, and Charly's about as dedicated as it's possible to be at bodybuilding and super meticulous. So if Charly's telling you it's okay to relax and just follow the plan, I guarantee you he's thought that through very much and has battled himself on that a ton. Because we're all like, again, the folks that are attending are largely similarly minded, that there's nobody in attendance that has problems with motivation. There's nobody in attendance that has problems with not being able to push hard enough. And I think a lot of the people have problems with like guilty feelings about not going hard enough. And should I modify the plan in an auto-regulation style? But what if I'm modifying it because I'm doubting myself? Should I really be modifying? That's a big focus of Charly's presentation, is like just how to cool off and look at things objectively, set a plan in motion, just kind of let the plan run its course. To me, Charly's been super instrumental as just a training partner or friend in helping me become a better athlete myself. Because I had been training for years and coaching people for years before I even met Charly. But like Charly was the person that essentially really convinced me to take super objective metrics, like track every macro, every calorie, within reason, of course. He got me a step tracker, physically bought it for me. And it was like, this is a really good idea, because he read all my theoretical work, and he's like, yeah, there you go. He's like, you should have a step tracker, you stupid idiot. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And then because for example, here's a step tracker just tells you what your activity is for the day. So you never ever have to worry about, okay, I did my 45 minutes of cardio, but then when I was shopping at the store, I kind of pushed on a cart. I leaned on a cart too much. And then I sat in the car for too long, and I parked too close to the store. How does that even out? That can drive you insane during prep. But if you have a fucking watch and it says 10,000 steps and you're good, you just don't have to worry about it. And I think because Charly's so meticulous himself, and because he's so focused on the details, he was like, why aren't we doing this super objectively? You would think, doing it objectively makes you more nervous. But that's the opposite of the truth. If you track everything, it's just all numbers, and the numbers they're cool as ice. You just look at them. Did I hit my numbers today? Yes. Well, I don't have to worry about anything. And it makes Charly's going to say way more than that. But it's unreal helpful to me.
Awesome. No, it sounds really good. And then with Jared, I believe he's doing client needs analysis, annual plan, and macro cycle design. So I think that's going to be a really nice complementary. Like yours are quite, I bet both are quite practical. His is very practical, but kind of the overview, and yours are also details within the weeds somewhat, and kind of, it's just all different aspects. I think it's going to be really nice and complementary to the work probably they can get from your YouTube channel and from the books and everything. It's just going to be very complementary to that.
Well, yeah, Jared's stuff is like all the stuff you learned from our books and the YouTube channel. Jared is going to illustrate how it is to be applied and how he applies it in generating a theoretical framework. And Jared's perspective on this is like he's insanely highly educated and ultra intelligent. And also he's a IFBB pro, so he's done this himself a whole bunch. But Jared, I don't coach. I have, how many clients do I have? My wife, Charly, sort of. Charly mostly does his own thing now. That's it. I think that's it. So me, right? I used to coach all the time, but I don't anymore. I do theoretical work. I do a lot of app development, stuff like that, videos. Jared, basically full day job is coaching. That's more or less all Jared does. And he coaches people at a bunch of different levels, but mostly at the higher level. And he does not mess around with his coaching. Jared watches individual clients' techniques all the time and does like Loom video conferencing with them to like get their techniques better. And he just puts so much work into every client. Like if you want a coach that just goes way over the top and in telling you exactly what's going to be happening, that Jared's that guy, and he's anal and he's meticulous. And so he doesn't coach people just by being like, oh yeah, we'll do this. It's all super designed, super ahead of time, auto-regulated all the time. And if you want to learn how to do that from one of the best coaches, I think, I mean, if I had anyone coach me, it would be Jared, other than myself. And the only reason I win that one is because I know me slightly better from just being inside my body. Like Jared's a very close second, sometimes better, right? And if you want to learn how that person thinks and lays it out, that's a big deal. I will say another thing. It's kind of cool to hear that, because do you know how other coaches coach? The answer is probably not. A lot of it, and Jared coaches pro people, he coaches drug people, and a lot of that world is very secretive. Like you hire a coach and they're just a guy with 500,000 Instagram followers because they've coached Mr. Olympia a bunch, and you don't ever know what they do except cryptically, like on Instagram, to be like pushing a bit more carbs into my athlete. And I'm like, pushing with a needle or a shovel? Like, what is going on? I mean, they're eating it, but and it's very cryptic, and you don't really know what's going on. Because a lot of the times they'll talk in detail about individual things they're doing, but you don't get the grand architecture of like, here's how we start an off season. Before we start an off season, here's how we do a needs analysis. Here's how we generate the program. Here's how we go off season, and then maintenance, and then prep, and then at all the auto regulation that happens. If you hear Jared's talk, I will say you're going to learn a shitload about how to coach yourself and coach your athletes. But for those of you coming, and for those of you thinking about buying tickets to come, make sure you read up. Jared does this thing. I think it's really funny. It's kind of like adorable. Jared only really ever speaks at one level, and that's Jared's knowledge and intelligence. So good luck keeping up, because he only uses technical terms. And I watch him do this to people that, like, we meet bodybuilders everywhere, and some of these guys like maybe didn't sort of graduate high school. And Jared's like, well, hypertrophically the best. I'm like, Jared, that person doesn't know what you're talking about at all. So if you want the most out of Jared's talk, I would read Scientific Principles of Hypertrophy Training. I would watch a few videos before showing up, because then you'll just get the most out of it. Because if you don't do that stuff, some of the shit, Jared will straight up lose you. Jared knows he's coming to talk to really smart people, which he loves to do. He's just going to be up here the entire time. So be prepared, that fair warning. Because some people will they'll sort of figure out where the crowd is and go that way, or some people like Charly and I just aren't smart enough to talk up, so we just talk down. I'm like, lifting, good, lazy, bad. That's more or less a summary of my talk anyway. I could have just said that, and that'd be the whole talk. But Jared's always really highbrow. He'll come with Jared only ever presents with a monocle and a top hat, and his butler usually does most of the talking, because Jared can't be bothered to speak. It's like that.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
And actually, Jared has come and done a presentation before, so I can agree, like, it's very, like you said, top level stuff, and very, very educational and informative for, like you said, for people who are looking to coach athletes, competitors, or people just looking to like get jacked, get strong, lose fat, that sort of thing, but also kind of people who are looking to coach themselves. You learn, and I think one of the most important things as you're getting more advanced is that macro cycle design, is that periodization. A lot of people don't think about that. They just kind of look at the next few weeks and they don't plan ahead of time, and they don't have goals and set outcomes, and they get a bit lost in terms of when should I be mini cutting, when should I do maintenance, all these things. So to have that mapped out and that guidance, I think is going to be super valuable from Jared, and also to be able to ask him questions about it, because that sometimes like you might get some of these things in the book, but you can't ask the book questions, whereas you guys will be there on hand to explain it if it doesn't make sense, for example. And I'm sure Jared's not going to avoid questions, for example. He will be very amenable to taking questions and answering people, because I mean, he does it all the time for his clients too. So it'll be a great experience 100%. On that front. And for myself and Pascal, who will probably be presenting, I think we're presenting. So I think it will be very much practical based off our kind of client experience, because like Jared, like I'm not a researcher. I'm not going to kind of throw PubMed studies at you. I don't think that's where my skill set is. So I think for my presentation, I'm not completely set on the topic, but I think I'm going to go from something like, the title is going to be, I just thought of this today. It's going to be something from taking good genetics to great. So kind of my personal experience with my personal career development as a natural bodybuilder, but also from helping clients, because a lot of the people I work with, they kind of count themselves out and they think they're not responding to things. And then as we work together, we can work through that, and kind of how I get people bought into that and how we get them making fantastic results that they never thought was possible. So that's what I'm thinking about presenting on. I kind of want to potentially ask some people what they think would be best. So I'm not finalized on that. And I think Pascal took inspiration from what you asked, Mike, in terms of kind of mindset surrounding getting through injuries and setbacks, because he's had his fair share of those throughout his career, especially recently. So yeah, he's kept pushing through despite that, but I haven't got confirmation that that's absolutely what he's doing, so I don't want to put words into his mouth. But yeah, you can expect some really hopefully practical and helpful and insightful presentations from everyone. Actually, I'm very excited for it. The day is always fantastic, especially for networking. Like we were just saying, I don't know if you guys know this, but me and Pascal met at a seminar. And so that's actually where he ended up really coming onto the team with myself, because we'd had several interactions at events. And that's the only reason that put him strides ahead of anyone else I was ever thinking to bring on. So yeah, you don't know where these things can link you to. And obviously we even had our first seminar, Mike, and we've developed a kind of mutual great relationship, which I'm super happy about. And we wouldn't be here today without having done that first one, a meeting. But I think, yeah, so if you're in the industry, it's a great way not to just make friends and acquaintances, but also you don't know what could come out of it.
Steve,
go for it, Mike.
I've already met the love of my life, Crystal, but what are the chances for any given seminar that they're going to meet the love of their life here? By the way, Charlie's also taken, so scratch that off your list.
We should do like a matchmaking type of, like, I don't know how we're going to do this. There's a dinner for the VIP, ultimate VIPs. Yeah. Well, that should be nice.
Is it candlelit?
We can like take a survey. Candlelit dinner. Have you ever wanted to meet the love of your life with Mike, Charlie, Jared, Pascal, and Steve literally looking over your date like this? Like, say this next. You know what we can do is like, okay, we're gonna just set this up right now. If you want, if we're gonna have a singles pool, a little like Tinder thing at the seminar. So during the actual seminar, we're gonna let you upload your profile and match. And if you match with somebody that you like at the seminar, at the dinner, we're just going to have you and them at candlelit dinner, and then you'll get a consultant. Like myself, I'll be on your shoulder, and Charlie will be on the other person's shoulder, and we're going to like tell you how things are going, how you're doing, what to say next, what not to say. Like you'll start saying, and Charlie will tap you on the shoulder and be like, and then you'll just be quiet, and he'll whisper in your ear and be like, "So, how is the weather today?" Shit like that. It's going to be amazing. Personal coaching for the love of your life. I can't wait.
I want someone to comment below if they met the love of their life at a seminar before. It's got to have happened. So many like-minded individuals in one place. There's a large ratio of males to females, unfortunately. Sorry.
Yes, but you know, males can love males. I've been there.
Yeah, there's been a few.
There's been a few RP clients that have gotten married.
Wow.
And they met in the RP clients group.
Yeah, through Facebook.
It's all through the social medias nowadays, so that doesn't actually surprise me. That's incredible.
No.
You're making love, guys.
Yeah.
That's what really matters.
My parole officer says I'm not allowed to make love outside the United States in any capacity, but yes, nominally I will agree with you.
Right, we'll get on to some questions that we had come through. So, actually, one, I think I just want to see if I want to ask it correctly. So this relates to potentially your presentation, Mike. They asked, can you target a specific part of a single muscle? I think this seems to be becoming more popular with kind of, from what I'm seeing at least, where people are targeting like the upper chest, specifically the outer quad, the lower lat, that sort of thing. How specific can we be with our exercises?
Mm-hmm. So I can actually have a pretty decent answer to this question. So on the one hand, for some muscles, that is the obvious answer is yes, because the biomechanics and the EMG studies and the just rationale and just testing what gets sore and what doesn't is pretty straightforward. So for example, if you want to target the long head of your tricep, if you work extensions at an overhead position, that absolutely will target the long head much more than extensions in any other position. If you do incline presses, it absolutely targets your upper chest more than flat or decline presses. So stuff like that is pretty obvious. What gets a little bit more difficult is when you have a significant amount of redundancy in the parts of the muscle. Like oftentimes they're called heads of the muscle. Like the quadricep has 4 heads, 4 components. And, one of the components is clearly designed to do something that the others are not, right? Like it elevates the hip as well as extending the knee. Now, the other components, 3 of them, especially the outer quad and the inner quad, they actually do more or less the same fucking thing. And it is very difficult to even theoretically surmise how they would practically be targetable differently, right? Another concern there is we say, well, let's go to the EMG studies. Well, the problem is EMG studies are they give you a rough idea of what's going on, but very, very bad at specifics. And in addition to that, they just don't have they don't have the power of kind of like the precision in order to tell you what the fuck is going on. And to date, most of those studies have shown, for example, for quads, that they're really like close stance, wide stance. It all seems kind of so similar that, it's just not dependable. So you really have to ask the question of, when you want to target a specific part of the muscle, is it a muscle that has distinct parts or has very distinct angles of pushing or pulling? For example, the lats are quite a large muscle, and the way the lats are designed is they insert at a very small place and then they fan out. So if you pull this way versus pull this way, it's perfectly theoretically reasonable, or at least hypothetically reasonable, that you could target different parts of the lat more than others, because the fibers align where the force of pull occurs. And, if the force of pull is a certain location, like it just makes sense that those fibers will pull it. Just is biomechanics in that regard. It's just not that complicated. So maybe with the lats, that is a possibility. But with a muscle like the quads, it strains the imagination. The quads only do one thing. It's this. They fucking extend the knee, the three quad muscles that don't function at the hip anyway. And it's kind of like, well, oh God, sorry, that's me. That's my wake up alarm. So, when the muscle is just like basically redundant components, and it's just like, oh, here's another one, the biceps, because, the biceps have 2 heads, unless you get ultra super specific with weird technique, man, both bicep heads really just kind of do the same thing. They insert on slightly different parts of the other structures, but it's such a tiny difference. Here's another one, the gastrocs, like the calves. I mean, they only just do one thing, which is just plantar flex the foot. And that's really it. And it's not so many, changing the angle doesn't really do a whole lot of anything. So for muscles like that, unfortunately, the preponderance of the evidence and the reasoning leads us to believe that any slight alterations of technique, and even large alterations of technique, just won't really have a dependable difference you can cash in at the bank. Say, oh, this is going to be for my outer quads. There may be some hypothetical situations in which you could bias one to the other a little bit, but seeing that on your person develop over time may be like really giant disappointment. And another thing is, overall muscle size is so much easier to change. You're often so much better off changing your overall muscle size versus prioritizing one part of the muscle and the other, is spending a lot of time with, there's a possibility that like altering your technique could give you 5% better growth of one side of the quad than the other. 5% growth over the course of 3 years when the total muscle grew by 20%, you may never even notice that. Someone's like, oh, I think your outer sweep's a little better. You're like, I guess. Then before we even say that's for sure the case, we have to take those exercises and rank them against our best SFR exercises. So for example, if it's shown that very narrow stance leg presses really actually do hit the outer quads, which by the way, it's by no means clear to me at this point, as by reading the literature and assessment of just kind of diagrammatical biomechanics. We look at diagrams and say, okay, like this is probably how it works. Even if that's true, you got to think, okay, if I narrow my stance a ton and point my toes forward, which is sort of like, I guess, the notion of how you would hit the outer quads, how much does it limit my range of motion? How much does it limit how much load I can place? How much does it limit how hard I can safely push my muscles? And then the answer is, if that limit is high, and then if you go like this instead of like this, you hit the overall quads 20% better, then the 5% you get from putting your quads in might just be like, okay, you do understand that this is the expense of a lot of future quad growth, that you're getting a slightly more balanced quad look. And when people look at it like that, it just no longer seems like bodybuilding is about slapping clay wherever you need. It's more like, well, if you want to slap clay on parts that the mold doesn't fit onto, you're going to slap 1 millimeter at a time once per week. And just, what about the big mold that makes the quad bigger? Like, well, you use either the slapper or the mold. Like, oh, shit. So there's definitely some things to consider. In general, what I would say is until and unless you've reached relatively high up to where your peak muscularity is going to be or where you want it to be, a lot of that focus on specific muscles that's not obvious, like overhead tricep work for the long head, a lot of it's probably, at least you have to diligently think through, is this worth the trade-off to me? Is this worth the time and the effort to take away from really, really pushing the muscles to become bigger? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And it makes me think again towards some of these kind of, I guess you might call them biomarkers within feedback from your sessions, in terms of like you talk about the pump, the disruption, and just how valuable these have just evidently become for diagnosis tools. And I know some people are not kind of biggest fans of them because they are, I guess, like they're individual based, they're not objective, maybe my measures, but I found them to just be so helpful because like in that situation, I'm just thinking, well, you can almost go try an exercise and like you can, in a sense, like in practice, feel whether or not it's doing everything you talked about there. If it's give you a poor SFR, if it's hitting that area, like you can feel if it's like, I know for me, for example, I have a big kind of, I guess you can, let's just call it like the teardrop, and then like my outer sweep of the quad is lacking comparatively. I can do almost anything quad work and it's just never really feel it in the outside. It's always on the inside. Like, there's just nothing I can really do about that. So it's just, yeah, I have found personally in my own training and with clients, those sort of feedback tools to be just so helpful. So no, that made a load of sense. Cool. Then I have a question, I guess, actually, I'm going to throw it over to you, Charlie. Someone asked, most underrated pieces of gym equipment, in your opinion?
Ooh. Gym equipment. Huh. Ooh. I have something. Two things. It's, I think people that probably follow us know this piece of equipment very well, Versa grips. Don't know if you consider it gym equipment, but I mean, I would. It's at the gym, take it to the gym. It's changed my back training considerably. Straps are great, but Versa grips, they almost never lose grip. It makes back training for me so much more efficient. Don't have to worry about my forearms giving out. And something recently, actually, I found through actually one of our members at Team Full ROM. He kind of mentioned it and kind of got lost, but I kind of checked it out. They're called Versa lifts, not made by the same company. They're little kind of like inserts, wedges. They're 1/2 inches thick that you put inside your shoe, which is like amazing. You don't have to step on actually plates, which is kind of unstable sometimes. I've been using them for the past couple of weeks, and it's phenomenal. I love that thing. It changes any kind of like leg quad movement to be that much more quad dominant, especially in machines, which we all know, sometimes leg presses, hack squats, things like that. aren't built perfectly, right? They can always be a little better. I have a hack squat and leg press that has the same issue in my gym, and I slap those suckers on. I put it in my actual weightlifting shoes, just kind of elevate the heel a little more, and like my quad just like got lit on fire. So guys out there, check out Versalifts and Versa Grips. They're both like, I think the Versa Grips are maybe like $50, $60, and the Versalifts themselves are like $20, $30. So, and they're tiny, you carry around everywhere. I'd say those are my two favorite pieces of gym equipment because of the price and also just the ease of transporting them.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people try and get like the wedges. I've got some like metal wedges I bought. And I'm just like, man, I just can't take these to the gym all the time. They're huge, they're heavy. It's really annoying. And I actually have some Metcons. Nike Metcons come with a little lift, literally what you're talking about. So I put those in my lifters. I've been doing that as well. So yeah, it's a great little hack. I think that's I didn't know there was a company actually selling them. That's a great idea.
Yeah, check them out. They're like I said, they're tiny, they're light, they look like they're kind of like 3D printed. They're amazing. Yeah.
Another really cool thing about them is if you're going on a trip and you want to have some good leg workouts and you don't want to pack because weightlifting shoes take up so much fucking space in your bag. They're not
so
collapsible. They just take up like a ton of, and they're heavy and they're hard. You can hit people with them. So if you pack the Versalifts, then you can just turn your regular walking around tourist shoe into a weightlifting shoe, and voila, you don't have, training at a hotel and they have a Smith machine and you're like, oh man, I really wish I had my lifters with me. Now you do, and now they take up almost no space and no weight.
I did that exact thing when I went to Vegas, and I was like using my Vans, and I just put in the little Metcon little heel, and I was like, this is awesome, this is perfect. And you're completely right, because as like meatheads, we want to pack our lifters everywhere, and it's just not the most convenient. They're not like Crocs, and you can just squish them in somewhere. Like it doesn't quite. They're pretty cumbersome. So yeah, no, awesome. Let's go for. Let's find a good. Actually, I think this will be quite a useful one for people. I don't think we've covered it before, Mike. Tips on and I don't imagine a large chunk of our audience won't have this issue, but I think there will be a chunk of them who will. Tips on if muscle growth outpaces joint growth.
Charlie had this problem a whole bunch. So after I give my spiel, I'd love if it's okay with you, Steve, if Charlie can chime in on that as well. So generally the way this happens is you start getting really strong. Maybe you figure out nutrition and training strategy that works really well for you and exercise that work really well. And you start putting on the pounds and the weight on the bar starts to really get kind of crazy. And all of a sudden you're like, my knees are starting to hurt on this hack squat. And it's because sometimes you do a weight a few weeks in a row, do the exercise, and the weight you're starting to load on for the same reps is like kind of scaring the fuck out of you. Like at one point, during one of my one prep ago, 2020 prep, I was doing Smith machine skull crushers. I did, I think, 195 pounds for 27 reps. And I was just like, if I did sets of 10 on these, it'd be 225 or 235, and my elbows would pop right off my body. I'd be like Mr. Potato Head. They'd be collecting me at the fucking bottom of the gym. So in that case, if you're basically your muscles are getting temporarily so strong that your joints are starting to get achy, there's two really good solutions. One is to just go for higher reps for a while. Like, folks, remember the Brad Schoenfeld literature reviews are correct. Sets of 20 to 30, as annoying as they may be, are absolutely effective, and they hurt and they suck. But what do you want? Muscle pain or joint pain? So go into sets of 15 or above, sets of 20 or above, sets of 25 to 30 if you have to. Crank that shit for weeks, if not longer, and then eventually start to lower the weight a little bit and drop back down into those rep ranges. And your joints will have months in order to get stronger. And joints can adapt to almost anything. It just takes them longer. People women are squatting 500 plus pounds. Like, you're going to be fine eventually with your joints, unless you just, sometimes we have shitty joint genetics, but then they're probably really small and look really cool on a bodybuilding stage. But generally speaking, it just go to higher reps. And the other one is, it's probably a good time to renorm your technique. Make sure you're not heave-hoing the weight. Sometimes even externally, it can look like you're doing good technique, but internally, you're using some momentum, some oomph. stop doing that. Control the eccentrics more, do some more pauses, really clean the shit out of your technique. That plus higher reps will solve most of those problems. You don't have to do it forever, just long enough where your joints feel great again, and then slowly ease back into the heavy weights with that technique you've preserved. And Charly, I mean, do you remember can you tell folks your leg press story from like a year ago at Iron Sport?
Which one was that?
You literally messaged me and you were like, I can't keep increasing weight on the leg press because my knees are going to explode.
That's right. Yeah, that's when so that was to a point where, like Mike was saying, every time I came into the gym to leg press, it scared me a little bit because I was worried about the feeling I was having in my knees. When I put that top weight on, I was never sure on the eccentric if my knees would just explode right then and there. But like Mike was saying, the things I did for that is pretty much lower the weights, increase reps. They sucked much more. My quads felt way worse after the workouts. Knees felt much better. On top of that, slow down the eccentric a lot. Incorporate pauses, more Meyer reps. Just another way to kind of increase the rep range for you, the total reps you're doing, and kind of limit the load you're using. And that's what I've been doing for a lot of my kind of movements nowadays, just because like Mike said, you get to a certain point where you can just move a lot of weight if you want to, but it's at the expense of joint health, right? And that needs a little more time to kind of catch up. That's happening with some movements now, luckily for me, but that's only because I took so long to kind of like renorm technique and just work in higher rep ranges. Yeah.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service that will take your physique and knowledge to the next level. If you're interested, check the description and sign up.
Charly, you're back now into those weights and higher with the leg press,
Yes.
right? And it seems to be going fine, even at the lower rep ranges for you.
Yeah,
I remember
I was
you started
surprised.
this last meso of leg press, and you were doing like 900 plus every single workout, and I was like, how the fuck is he doing this? I guess his knees must be better, because like there was a time when you were in the 800s and you couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's literally to a point where like afterwards I'd take steps to like bend down to tie my shoe, and my knees would feel like I'm in the leg press, like it would hurt that much. So we're out of there though, thank God.
I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts on this as well, because I think just as you were talking there, I think a lot of people, it's become quite popular to like pre-fatigue and use that as a strategy. Is that something you think people don't go towards? Like they just don't think to use the higher reps, and they don't think to, I don't know, let's say eat their ego a little bit, slower concentrics, pausing, and so they go towards this pre-fatigue as a way round having to do that? Or do you think they're both worthwhile considerations?
I definitely think the pre-fatiguing is good, but for us, we mostly use pre-fatiguing to limit the systemic fatigue and the axial fatigue of an exercise, not limit its local joint problems. Because if you think about it this way, if you're getting ultra strong quads and your knees are having trouble keeping up and you're pre-fatiguing with a leg extension, the leg extension is going to hurt your knees a lot because your leg extending 200 pounds. You're like, my fucking knees hurt more than ever. This isn't fucking working. And by the time you get to hack squats, your knees hurt even more. And it doesn't matter how light the weight is. So pre-fatiguing, in my view, is a bit more centered at reducing the systemic fatigue and axial fatigue, hack squatting 300 pounds instead of 400 pounds. But if your knees are hurting because your muscles are so big and your joints are just not there yet, even the pre-fatiguing exercises, which a lot of times are more single joint, they're the ones that can hurt the most. Just imagine this. Imagine someone said, hey, I can't start with close grip bench. I need to start with skull crushers to pre-fatigue the tricep. Okay, sweet. But my triceps are so big, my skull crushers are hurting my elbows even more. And a lot of times, if you close grip bench first, your elbows warm up so much. And I wonder if you guys have had the same experience. Skull crushers after feel great on your elbows. But if you skull crush first, dude, I need like 10 times the warm up. I'm like, oh my God, my elbows are going to fall off. So I think pre-fatiguing can be a strategy that works in this regard, but I think it more often works to reduce spinal axial fatigue and systemic fatigue. And I think that this is a very special, because, for Charly, he was hurting on the leg presses because he would do leg press and then he'd do some squats or something like that. He was already pre-exhausting with leg presses. And the leg presses hurt too much. Like that's a bad deal. Usually on squats, Charlie could go as heavy as he wants and his joints never hurt. It's just a shitload of systemic fatigue from having to squat 700 pounds for reps, right? Like Charlie, you've never really had knee pain on squats.
Never
in any major capacity.
No.
Yeah. So it's I think it's, Steve, it's kind of two different problems. I think it's possible to pre-fatigue in a way that helps, but I think the pre-fatiguing is also has to be, okay, you got to slow down your eccentrics. You got to do higher reps. You might do that anyway because it's an isolation, but that's really kind of exposing the fact that that's really what's doing the work. Maybe not even the pre-fatiguing that's helping you. It's the fact that you're doing higher reps, renorming your technique, and making sure to just wait it out until your joints get better.
Really well said. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So I'm going to ask this next question for you, Charlie. Someone asked, are chest-supported rows better than bent-over rows due to stability, meaning more power? What are your thoughts surrounding bent-over rows compared to machine rows? Or
I don't think so. This is easy for me, at least. Not better or worse. It really depends on what you're aiming to do, right? Bent over row is going to give you much more load on your erectors, just like overall back musculature. While the chest supported rows, you don't have to support the weight. It's literally just chest supported. So there's less of your back working. If you want to target more, I guess, your lats, your upper back, things like that, without targeting your erectors so much, probably said chest supported row is the better option. If you want just more overall back growth, including your erectors, bent over row is probably a little better. Obviously, that comes over the trade-off with, a little more axial fatigue, systemic fatigue, of course. But yeah, neither is better or worse, in my opinion, because of those reasons.
Yeah. Anything else to add there, Mike, or are you the same?
I mean, Charlie got it completely on the money. I just want to add just a theoretical idea that this notion, and no offense to the question asker, it's a very good question. It's a question that actually has a lot of validity, but there is a place at the margins where it has validity, where some exercises are just straight up better than others. Just better. Like if you give me a shitty incline press with a shitty angle that hurts my shoulders and it's partial range of motion, it's not like it's just another tool in the toolbox. Like your toolbox sucks, your hammer is broken in half. Like that, throw that thing out, right? But on the other hand, when you have really good exercises, there are situations in which a bunch of them are just fucking really good. It's like saying, okay, what's better if you're really like a foodie kind of person? A $700 meal at one of the world's best restaurants, or like McDonald's burger? Well, of course, that's $700 meal. But hold on a sec. There's like 5 world's best restaurants, and they all have $700 meals. Which ones are better? Is it French cuisine? Is it Vietnamese? Is it sushi? Well, I just think they're just different foods, and they're all great. And it just kind of depends on what you're in the mood for or what's around. So when people are talking about, well, a bent row is better than chest supported rows for back, like Charlie said, it's a little, if you want, for example, just to keep this cuisine analogy going, if you want some really like richness, some heavy foods, yeah, high-end French cuisine is the way to go. You're not going to get heavy foods from fucking Japanese. Are you fucking kidding me? Like the whole meal has 2 grams of fat or some shit like that. But on the other hand, if you're looking for some, very different kinds of tastes and a lot of freshness in your food, then absolutely, you're going to go to a high-end sushi restaurant and get that. Just the same way as Charlie said, in bent rows, there's some spinal erector stuff involved. It really is a whole back exercise. Chest supported rows, there are ways to do them that involve the spinal erectors, but mostly it's going to be the upper spinal erectors. The lower ones really do get hit in a special way in bent rows. Another thing is personal SFR. Like for some people, bent rows for some time could be amazing. That's like you're in the mood for French food a lot, right? But for some people later, they could switch to chest supported rows being amazing. Like, well, I've had French food the last 10 times I went out. Fuck that. I'm going to go and have my private plane pilot fly me to Japan to have sushi from that 100 fucking year old guy or whatever. Jiro's name. Charlie, he's one of your buddies, right? In any case, it's fucked up. My uncle. Yeah. So there's so many more jokes to make at everyone's expense. So shut the fuck up. But it's at the end of the day, what should happen in the gym is you should have a candidacy list of your top XYZ number of high stimulus to fatigue ratio exercises. And that list will maybe be like 3 to 5 movements per muscle group. And it's going to rotate itself as to what rank 1 is. But rank 1 isn't always rank 1 because things get stale. Like, imagine saying like, what's better, hack squats or leg press? And I'm like, leg press. And someone's like, okay, but I'm really like bored of leg presses. I'll be like, well, no, you should shut up and do the best exercise. Like, it doesn't work like that. Hack squats, even if you don't love them, if leg presses get stale, they can start to be, the hack squats can be better. So maybe if you prefer leg presses, maybe like 8 months out of the year, you do a lot of leg pressing. 4 months out of the year, you do a lot of hack squatting. Someone who prefers hack squat could do the other way around, but it strains my imagination to think there's someone who only ever does one time, only does that.
And something I like to add to that,
there's
real
no
quick,
punchline there.
I think that people don't really, I mean, it's not brought up enough, like but Mike said, a lot of times it comes down to, you know, what is the best SFR for that individual, right? But on top of that, something that doesn't get brought up enough is it really depends on the machine also, because I've met hack squats that I love and hack squats that are completely unusable. So if someone says hack squats are the best for quads, what are you talking about? And also wrong, because that person might not feel it as well. They may have a shitty hack squat at the gym. So always keep that in mind.
Yeah, really well said. I know that's a bugbear question for you, Charlie, is when people are like, why are you doing this over this? I know this was one Mike got a ton as well when he posts up his workouts, like, and I've had it too, like, why? And the answer, unfortunately, is very often just as simple as variation. It's one of your good SFR movements right now. It's kind of the best one for you. It's the tool that you're using right now. So I think that's really well explained. So we're going to this, probably the final question, and it's moderate intensity cardio after weights. Is it just a problem for those less advanced? Is it a problem for those less advanced, or is it just a problem for someone who is more advanced? Or is it always better to split up your kind of cardio after your workout?
It's always better, but it's going to make less of an impact for people that are less advanced, and also people with slightly different goals. If you're doing moderate intensity cardio, which is to say something like jogging, then ostensibly you're interested in being good at that and interested in having a cardiovascular capacity that's very high. And then I'd also assume that you don't care about just doing everything it takes to max out your muscle gains, which is totally fine, by the way. That means you're just more of a normal person. You're going to die much later than the rest of us, and you're going to have a better life while you're still alive. You know, see us at the seminar, Jared and Charlie and I need to like lean on things after walking for a mile because our lower backs are too pumped. Like, wow, we elite levels of performance and living life. So, you know, it's totally fine to understand that, yeah, like right after, cardio is going to have a problem of diverting post-workout nutrients away to the working muscles instead of the muscles recovered. If you're using this kind of cardio, it's leg-based cardio like running, and you're doing after a leg workout, there's a direct molecular interference effect, among other things. There's a fatigue component to it. So yeah, there's definitely trade-offs, and it also depends on how much moderate intensity cardio you're doing. Look, if you run 1 mile after a leg workout and you're an intermediate lifter, people are going to barely be able to tell. You're going to have almost exactly the same gains. If you run 10 miles after your workout, you may have not worked out. Don't even bother lifting because you're going to erase all of your gains as an intermediate or advanced lifter. So there's issues of scale and there's issues of trade-offs. So what I would say is this: start easing into moderate intensity cardio after your workouts. Try to avoid doing it after leg workouts. Do it after the other workouts. Get in a shake and carbs as soon as possible after. See how your results are coming along. And if you're used to a certain rate of growth and it's just not happening anymore and your results are really disappointing, be like, God damn it, reduce your cardio by half or put it somewhere else. Then your gains might restart again. You're like, well, okay, I sort of know where the margin is. And you may be able to decrease cardio, push it away from your workout, bring it close, decrease the intensity, and find where that happy medium for you is, where you're still getting what you want as far as exercise resistance training. Because here's the thing, by rep and load progressions, you can tell how things are going. So if you're like, yeah, I've started running after my leg workouts and I haven't PR'd in 6 weeks, you'd be like, okay, are you cool with that? Like, no, I hate it. Well, time to run less or not run at all. But if you're running and if someone tells you, hey, the interference effect it's not only going to zap your muscle gains, it's going to kill your grandma as well. You're like, oh shit, I'm never going to do it. But then you try it and you're running after some leg workouts and then you're just getting great gains. Who's going to tell you you're an idiot? And you, of course, you would get hypothetically better gains if you didn't do that. But if you're getting great gains and you love them and you also love running, hey, fucking run all you want. You know?
Yeah, I think that's really well said in terms of like just what's happening in practice. Like this might be theoretically how it's meant to be or what have you, but what's actually happening in real time for you is just like, I don't know, like Charlie said with a hack squat. If someone says, oh yeah, all hack squats are best, but you've got one of those hack squats just trash or you just aren't built well for that, then like try and move to something else. On a side note, Charlie, did you do any? Do you ever do cardio? Did you do any cardio in your prep? I don't know if we covered that question when I had you on previously. I'm just interested.
Oh yeah, no. So what we focus on mainly, for me at least, just total step counts. So some people might consider that cardio, me walking around aimlessly. So it really depends how you look at it. It's just
the cops are like, "Where are you going?" You're like, "Nowhere." They're like, "That's not a good answer."
Yeah, no, that clears that one up nicely. Yeah, I was just wondering because I don't think we ever covered it. So there was one final question, and I don't know. I mean, this could be a long answer, it could be a short answer. It's quite a challenging. It was quite a challenging question. So it was basically, where is it? I had it for a moment. I know what it is. It was essentially, what do you do if you feel like nothing's working? That's what the question was.
Give up. Think of suicide. Really mull it over. I'm kidding, by the way. I hope that the English dry humor will save me there. So Charlie's taking notes like suicide. Got it.
Got it already? Okay.
Already. So there's kind of a few things to do, probably like 2 or 3. Thing one is to really do like a hard reset on all of your procedures that you're executing in order to try to get results. And the first place I'd go to is take a 4-week active rest. 4-week active rest. 1 month, basically just don't go to the gym. Just live your normal life. Eat some protein, eat some fun foods. Your body composition is going to take a real big hit, but it's all going to come back super quick when you restart. That's going to, a lot of times people, nothing's working means their systemic fatigue is ultra high and they don't even know. The last active rest I took, I didn't even feel normal until the 2nd week. Like 1 whole week of deloading, I still felt like shit. I just didn't want to lift weights. I wanted to quit bodybuilding. Like I knew I didn't really want to, but my brain was like, stop. Bodybuilding sucks. You hate it, remember? And I stopped lifting basically for a week, lift super light, basically nothing. And then only in the middle of the 2nd week was I like, yes, I want to fucking go back and destroy. It took that long. If you're really in a bad way, take 4 weeks and just fuck away from the sport. As you get to the end of that 4 weeks, you'll probably start thinking of ways to, I'm really excited to make my plan, take a hard reset on your plan, objectively reanalyze everything you're doing, take a real good approach, create something you think is really going to work, then run it. And you're going to get your muscle gain back for 4 to 8 weeks. You're going to gain new muscle for another 4 to 8 weeks. And then to see how that progression keeps going. Sometimes that'll solve everything and it just keeps going. It works great. Another thing is hire a coach after that period, or after you regain your muscle, hire a coach, because they can have ideas you've never come up with. Like, don't just quit some shit that you love and is a huge part of your life that you do by yourself. If you could have just hired Steve Hall and after 3 months, you're like, oh shit, I'm making incredible gains. That guy didn't quit the sport. This is awesome. And a lot of stuff you learn from a coach, you keep forever. So you can keep it with you. If those 2 things don't work and you do really due diligence and it's just like you've capped off, one thing you can do is just reconsider, switching to maintenance, training for lifting so you can stay healthy and strong, taking some other hobbies and enjoying the fuck out of your life. Like I probably only have another 3 or 4 years in the sport. And after that, I'm going to be doing tons of jiu-jitsu, tons of cardio. I'm only going to be training really my upper body. I'm not going to train legs hardly at all. And it's going to be sweet because this is going to be a different phase of my life. And, you don't have to push this fucking nonsense up and how important bodybuilding is. It always jots me out to go on a trip somewhere and just talk to people who are sitting next to me on the plane. Yes, I am that guy. I will talk to you if you sit next to me. And, they're like a computer programmer or a nurse and they're talking to me about stuff and they're like, oh, exercise. I should probably do some of that. And I'm like, wow, these people are living completely fulfilled, normal, happy lives. They don't even know what bodybuilding is. And they're probably better contributors to society than I am. So, at some point you go oh, I have to be jacked. No, you don't. We're all weird idiots. So at some point you can just say, I gave it a full go. I gave it a break. So it's 3-point process. Break, full go, which may or may not include a coach, should probably include a coach. And then if that doesn't work, just maintenance training and get the fuck out of this dumbass sport. And then here's the thing. If someone's like, hey, why don't you bodybuild anymore? I'd be like, oh, I think it went as far as it's going to go for me. And I'm satisfied with where I left off. And I couldn't push it any further. And that was that. And they'll be like, well, why don't you start shooting Tren into your eyeballs? And then you can be like, well, I like to see still. And that'll be that conversation.
I'm glad you brought the drug joke into it because that was going to come in the comment section at some point. Whatever, I can't think what even it is. 5 milligrams. That's 5 milligrams is probably way too a little amount. Whatever it is.
Not if you shoot in your eyeballs. That's just a lot.
Yeah, 5 grams more.
Yeah, 5 grams. There you go. Oh dear. So guys, this has been fantastic. I think it's given people a real taste into what they can look to experience. Like I said, when I was marketing it, the first thing that came to my head was the fact it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a laugh. If you love to laugh, you do not want to miss this. You're going to be surrounded by like-minded individuals, and you're going to definitely learn something from this event too. So I definitely want people, if they are interested, if you've got some fear of missing out, good. Don't miss out and come to it on the 4th of June. Pick up your ticket now. And I want to say a massive thank you to you guys for taking the time for this, but also I'm just dead excited for the event itself for that time. So yeah, thanks guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve. Thanks, Charlie. I'll talk to you guys later.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.